Man, I just feel like I'm always gonna be that girl from Westchester, which there's a Westchester in Miami. Not to be confused for the New York Westchester.
That's what I thought. I was supposed to ask you from New York. Are you from
I know, girl. No, Westchester in Miami. And I know this is such an abstract way of answering the question, but I think it just comes around to the fact that I don't take myself seriously. And that, to me, that's a good thing. So, like, anytime I envision who I am, it just goes back to being that girl sin zapatos in my abuela's house with no air conditioning, eating arroz con huevo frito and watching reruns of, like, Tailspin. Like, it's just this very, like, Juanita in Miami, low middle class,
Yeah.
good family values, just total nerd, and I don't ever want to change that.
That's beautiful, though.
No, that's great.
Because you're in touch with your child at all times, and you don't have to let
Yeah.
that go.
Yeah.
When did I guess your childhood and growing up and being the girl eating eggs and rice, did that influence
Best food, though.
Yeah.
It is.
It's so good.
It is.
I don't get. Yeah, I'm like, whatever. I ate that all the time as a kid. I didn't complain about that.
Did that influence the comedy, the writing? When did that started to set in for you? I was like, oh, I love making people laugh. What was the route for that you started noticing those inspirations and influences and motivation to go after it?
I'll have to say, I think this is why having the right teachers and education matters. Doesn't matter if it was private or public school. To me, it's all about the teachers. That's what makes or breaks a child's, like, education and their upbringing. And so I had a principal, may she rest in peace. Her name was Miss Patsy. And she was the school principal, but she wrote all the school plays herself. She made sure to heavily involve the arts in our curriculum. So from the age of 4, it was instated that you had to learn a monologue every year, perform it in front of the class, and the ones that got picked would go to compete with it.
That's amazing.
So I was
jealous of that school.
Yeah. And it wasn't a performance arts school or anything. It wasn't like one of these. Wow. That's just because she, as a person, loved the arts so much, and she was all about, like, vaudeville and all that, that that was her plan. And so I was competing in drama competitions as young as age 4. But it wasn't until the 4th grade that, I don't know, something clicked, and I competed. I worked twice as hard, and I memorized 4 pieces, and I'm like, I'm gonna do more than I ever did before. And then I was chosen to perform on stage, which is one of those things that in that competition, if you did a great job, then you would get chosen to perform that piece in front of everyone. So it was like 300 people. It was and remember, this is a Christian school, right? So all the monologues, and they were all, like, related to God. Yeah. and the message and everything. But this piece was really funny because I was like a cheesy saleswoman selling scratch and sniff Bibles.
That's great.
So it was really ridiculous, and I've shared the video. I actually shared the video of me doing that monologue because that is truthfully the moment where I was on that stage and hearing everybody laugh so hard made me realize this is what I want to do. In my own kid brain,
Yeah.
And ever since then, was that your focus? Like, that's what you concentrated on fully?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not gonna lie. I was deterred a couple times.
Of course, that happens.
Especially when you grow up in a place that's not LA or NYC, right? Like Miami, the market doesn't really exist for a lot of people in the industry unless you just want to work at Univision, which I did briefly. Every Latinos had to work at Univision at some point. It's like the rite of passage. you cross paths with Don Francisco.
Yeah. You get the blessing. It's like
You get some weird
it's
blessing.
like being on the Carson show. Don Francisco invites you over to the chair.
So I was like, and La Cuatro, I'm like, oh, there
Or
she
the
is.
what's his name? El Pachá shoes you
El
off.
Chacal.
El Chacal.
El Chacal, never saw that. That guy's a mystery. I'm wondering what he's doing today. Could have been a woman. We don't know.
It's true.
But
there should be a documentary about that, actually.
There should be. That's the next one after the What Did Mercado.
That's a funny sketch idea. Like, what is he doing right now during the pandemic? He has no one to like to play the trumpet for. You're like, bah, bah, bah. Like he's in the house by himself.
There's a lot of people he needs to tell fuera to right now. But anyway, but I got deterred a couple times because again, I didn't have that privilege of. I had some friends that were in the arts and their parents were wealthy. So they're like, let's go to like the most expensive school in the nation for your acting, or like, let's move to LA. And I was like, I couldn't do that. So a lot of times I would change my mind. Like I was a graphic design major at one point. But that's also because I was in a crappy, like emotionally abusive relationship, and he was bien celoso and all that crap. And so he was very anti me being an actor and a filmmaker and being around all these guys, because let's face it, film school was that for me. It was mostly guys. And I think that's changing, thankfully. But yeah, so there's a lot of reasons why I was just like, no, I'm just gonna change my major. But I just couldn't stay away.
Yeah, it seems like it kept on bringing you back, and you couldn't, no matter how much you try to like run from it or try to put it on hold, it was a part of you. There was no way of getting away from it. Like it was telling you, this is your purpose, this is your passion, this is what you're supposed to be doing. No matter how challenging it can be and fearful, everyone's going to have those things. But I think at the end of the day, we got to focus on what it brings us first, which is the love and the sanity that it brings to us. You know, because it goes back to like even you being young. I could imagine you being influenced by a lot of the probably comedians around your household, the stuff that you was watching.
Family? How was your family support?
They were extremely supportive. So nobody in my family is an actor or a comedian or anything. But my abuelo was an artist in Cuba. And so I think that had to do, there's a lot of moving parts here as to why they were so supportive of me getting into the arts. Because when I was a kid, before I got really into acting, I was more of an artist. So I would do portraits and everyone was like, Jenny, the artist. Like all my teachers, when they would sign my yearbook, they're like, you're going to be a big artist someday. And now I don't even do that.
Well, you're an artist in your performance.
In a different way, yeah.
In a different way.
But I was like my abuelo, where I liked drawing faces, like portraits of people. That was like his specialty. It's weird how that gets passed on. And so, you know, and of course they were poor in Cuba and he did it for fun as a hobby. So, you know, when he moved to the States, he had to paint houses and worked at the Marriott, you know, at the airport. Something, and my abuela was like, she would work at a sewing factory. But I think also with my parents, my mom especially, she struggled because she couldn't pursue what she wanted growing up because of all the limitations, right? So that was another reason why my mom was like, do what you want. Right. Go for it. Because I didn't have that chance. So I got really lucky because I know a lot of people in, tú sabes, Latino households that their parents are like, nope, you're going to be a lawyer or something.
Get that job.
Being an artist was like, nope. So, yeah.
Well, I was going to ask you, when did you start, I guess, taking control of your career? Because I would imagine, like you said, being in Miami, you know, you're limited to what the opportunities are there. So there had to be a point where you started writing and creating your own stuff and taking control of the path of where you want to go, and how to showcase yourself and be your own agent and everything. When did that click for you? Because I feel like that's very crucial for a lot of artists, especially for like us. You know, you have the auditions, you go into it or whatever, you just like sheep, cattle, or whatever, and you're just running through the course, but you're not 100% fulfilled because you're not getting these
Yeah.
roles that are giving you a purpose and what you want to bring to it. But then the moment you started creating your own content and your own stuff, you start feeling fulfilled. You start filling that gap that you've been missing because you've been saying yes to yourself now and not listening to the no's that the industry throws at you for whatever reason because it's out of your control. When did you start realizing that and like, you know what? I'm gonna do things my way. I'm gonna start going this path and creating my own stuff.
I actually started doing that really young, like in the 7th grade. But it's weird because you don't think about it until later, and you're like, "Oh man, I actually been doing this for a while. I've been fed up for a while." Like with the drama competitions, I got tired of the pieces we had available to us, so I asked my principal, "Can I start writing my own pieces?" So I was the first kid to ever compete with a monologue that she wrote herself.
Nice.
So it kind of started there. Then, I mean, going back to Salo Gigante crap. Yo, the Miami market. I mean, first of all, look at me, right? So a lot of people just think I'm a white girl. That's it. Then I open my mouth and they're like, whoops, what? What is she?
What is going on?
What is this?
Control, Alt, Delete. No, this is not right. This is not.
They think I'm going to talk like this. And then I'm short. I don't have boobs. I don't have butt. I don't have cadera. And then Miami, especially the market there, like just to sell like, I don't know, toothpaste, you have to look like a modelo from Salo Gigante. So I would go into these cattle call freaking auditions and I'd be next to women. Well, my grandma would say mujeronas.
Word.
And they're, you never heard mujerona?
No, I said word.
Oh, yeah. Unas mujeronas. And even if they were my age, I didn't look the age because I was so tiny and pale. And it was just like a waste of my time. I was an extra in a couple things like Burn Notice and Dexter. Yeah. And so that's when I decided to go to film school. Because I was like, And also, like, again, in high school, I had a really great TV production teacher. So I got into editing. I love video editing. So I kind of liked all these things. And I started realizing later on, like, yo, I'm not happy just being an actor. I like writing. I like directing. I like producing and editing. So that's when I went to film school. Film school is where I learned even more. I started working with teams and creating sketches. So by the time I graduated is when I joined this channel called Aggressive Comics. And for 5 years, I dedicated my time to that channel. It was very different. It kind of looked like this, the way I look right now on Zoom, where it was like me just talking to camera and reviewing movies and stuff. But if it wasn't for all the hard work that I put into that channel, I wouldn't have gotten a job at BuzzFeed. When I moved to LA. So I was so lucky because my husband and I moved out here without jobs lined up. We just had money saved and we're hoping for the best. But I immediately, I had an interview within the month at BuzzFeed. And, that's why I always tell people, it doesn't matter. Put yourself out there. Don't think of the numbers at first. At the end of the day, it's still going to be part of your portfolio that you can show that you're hustling and you're making content, even if you don't have like tons of fans or something,
Right.
So I've kind of had a weirdly long-winded trajectory, tú sabes, but yeah.
Yeah, but it seems
It
seemed like it all led you to this point.
Yeah.
And it all played a purpose. So like from doing the scratch and sniff monologues, from the inspirations from your family and stuff, the support and stuff like that, and
going to the cattle calls and seeing, okay, this is not for me.
Film school, all that prepared you to where you are at right now.
Yeah.
So I want to know also, like, of course, the Abuela character that you have. What
She's my
was
favorite.
the inspiration for that, and what made you like, you know what, I want to bring this character to life and do videos with her? Because a lot of people, most people, I feel like in a Spanish household can relate to it. Whether you're Cuban or not, you know, we all share very similar
Mhm.
cultures. You know, how we either get in trouble, get yelled at, whatever. Everything is in there. So, what was the motivation, or take us to the process of like, hey, I want to do this and I want to bring it to life?
I so she's based on my maternal grandma, Orquídea Diaz, may she rest in peace. Because she and my abuelo practically like raised my sister and I because we were always there. He would pick us up from school and we would be there until dinner. We would eat dinner usually there and then we'd go home. So, man, I slept over my grand. I especially out of my sister and I was especially attached to them.
Yeah.
And so I have them to thank for my Spanish and the culture in general, just having
Right.
a really good understanding of. So I think because of that attachment and because I spent so much time there, I was unknowingly studying them.
Mm-hmm.
And they would take me to La Clínica. And so then I'd be surrounded by all the viejitos all the time, the viejito culture. And I think as actors, we all just kind of pull that out at some point, just people that we know and we're surrounded by. It all kind of, I mean, I would perform as an abuelita type character in a lot of like improv shows and stuff in high school. But in terms of the internet, it wasn't until I was on the Aggressive Comics channel. And at the time, a lot of people, I don't think were fully aware that I was Latina. My last name throws people off, Lorenzo. And so they think I'm just like Italian. A lot of people think I'm from New York, by the way. A lot of people, random people, my
I
whole
would think
life.
that.
Me
I
too.
would think that.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah, like all kinds of folks, like Puerto Ricans, white guys are like, from New York. I'm like, no, but cool. I'm like, thank you. I'm from Miami. I feel like East Coasters are all kind of similar.
Yeah.
Compared to West Coast. So I vibe more and I get it. So, they ¿cómo se dice? I'm forgetting like the train of thought I was having now because I went off on that New York tangent.
Well, you was talking about.
Oh yeah, Aggressive Comics. So they didn't really know I was Latina or anything. I didn't really talk about it until finally we had to review the movie Kick-Ass 2. And Kick-Ass is about like all the like they're like alter egos or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
So we came up with me being a Cuban abuela, and that's my alter ego, and my like weapon is the matamosca. Mm-hmm. And so that's kind of how it. And then after that, I was like, you know what? I'm gonna keep doing this character. And it was weird because that channel, like the audience was mostly like white dudes. Mm-hmm. And then to start bringing this Cuban abuela character, and I started doing recipe videos and stuff, like then it started becoming like absolutely not even geek related at all. It was just like, I'm going to teach you how to make tres leche. Like it was weird. And I did it with my friend Annie Jones, who's also Cuban, from Miami. And that's kind of how it started. So then when we went to BuzzFeed, and that was its own journey, but it took a while to get Pero Like started because you know how it is.
Yep.
I feel like now that, you see the Emmys, there's barely any Latinos nominated.
Yep.
So I feel like we're still in the same crap, with the industry, whether it's on the big screen or on a digital sense. Mm-hmm. We're just not taken seriously yet. So I was surprised that being at a company like BuzzFeed, that it was going to be easy to convince them to do Latino content. No. if it wasn't for certain people on the inside who really believed in us, it wouldn't have become a reality.
Right.
And also, it was scary to bring the Abuela character to that platform because at the time, BuzzFeed had never done anything like that. It was very just natural acting, just people playing themselves. Never this Medea stuff. Like, what's this, young person playing an old lady? But it worked. And then from there, she's just been like evolving.
And it's so weird because how they don't see there is a market for Latino comedy, Latino culture. The market's been there. We've been supportive. We've been a voice for many years. And whether if it's not as a strong enough market as the other, like, white movies or whatever, at the end of the day, it's still a market. There's still people that's watching and enjoying it, whether it's Spanish or not, like all types. So it's just, even like when I heard about the Walter Mercado documentary and how there was a struggle to even bring that, and they're like, who is he? And no, I don't think it's going to cross over. And I'm just like,
they always say that. They always worry about it crossing over. And I think that's the problem because, and I know the Asian community is also really struggling, also for the same reasons, because it's all these different countries, they speak different languages. Granted, Latinos, we all speak Spanish, but it's still so different in our foods and like our lingo and stuff like that, that I think Hollywood shrivels up. They're like, I don't get, again, like, I can't mention the network, but I was recently told that my sketch show was too Latino.
Yeah. It's dumb.
And I was like,
frustrates me.
What?
Yeah.
What? But it's just a struggle, even more so when you're Caribbean, because then it's like, well, prove to me why this can't be Mexican. I'm like, well, I'm not Mexican. I don't know what to tell you. Or they try to move your story and make it Mexican or make it in East Los Angeles. And I'm like,
that's the only thing they know.
I know. And then they're scared. I think they're scared. They don't want to get out of their comfort zone. They're afraid they're going to lose money. And so they're like, well, Mexicans dominate the U.S. And I'm like, okay, but you think Mexicans aren't going to watch a story about Puerto Ricans? Like, I don't understand. Like, we watch Mexican stories. We all watched Coco. You know, we're all watching Gentified and Vida. Like, why? You're not giving us a chance to prove to you that we're not these. Look, I get it. We all have that beef, right? Which I think Latinos need to get over also. Like, oh, we're better than Argentinians and whatever. It's cool when it's like for fun, you know, like being primos about it. But we need to break all that down, because if not, we need to become united like the Black community. And I'm obviously speaking about the non-Latino Black community. I look up to that community because I'm like, damn, you guys show up for each other. You push each other to the top. I still feel like Latinos are like crabs in a barrel.
They all for themselves.
I'll share. I absolutely agree with what you're saying. And I actually was speaking to my friend about this, and I mentioned it to her as well a couple of times. So when I took some UCB classes in New York, you know, when I went into it, I was just saying that I'm going to focus on my voice, and whatever tools that they're giving me, I'm going to use that to learn and grow and amplify the voice that I'm trying to get comfortable with performing. I'm not going to fall into their formula to now all of a sudden lose what I came with to go with that. Now, that's not to say that I can't do white humor. I will. That's just one of my gifts and talents that I'm going to also do. But I also got many different layers of humor that I'm doing. So, but one thing that I will say, especially in the UCB, that when I was taking it, they were looking for diversity. They were looking for people to go and take the initiative and like, hey, give us more of a voice and do that. But what I was noticing is the natural and genuine support from the white people in the community. There was like, I'm going to help you on that sketch. I'm going to do this. Not because I'm thinking that maybe you're going to owe me, blah, blah. I'm like, no, it's for the love, and we're going to support each other, and whoever goes make it. Hopefully they'll remember us and be like, they'll take us as well. I saw the natural and genuine support for that, and I was like, damn, why doesn't that happen in the Latino community? Because I was in the Latino community as well, and I felt like the support that you would get was, why you? Or
If
I'll
you
help
do
you.
this, or what you're gonna give me?
Yeah, and if you got to help me
There's
out
an
too, or if you
opportunity.
make it, you could better bring me along. It was like, what am I getting from you from this? It wasn't like a natural thing. Not to say that everyone, because I met some people,
Claro, of
yeah,
course.
Yeah.
that did help naturally genuine. I was the same way for them, but you just felt the air, the difference of the different airs that you felt being and jumping from different communities. And I'm all type of performer that I stick to myself. You know, I have a selected few that I work with, but I'm not there for the shine all the time. I go in, have fun, do what I got to do, but I'm not. I'm like more reserved. I don't need to be on all the time. I'll be on when I'm on the stage. So
Yeah.
I noticed that, and that was something that I appreciated. The UCB in the community that I saw there, that was mainly just white and sprinkles of tan and black and stuff like that. And I was just like, why? Why is that? I feel like we will go further if we all genuinely
Come
support
together.
each other to the next level. And who knows? Not everyone is going to make it to maybe the level that they envision. At the end of the day, if you're creating sketches, you're making content, you have a fan base, and you're having love, that's success. The money will come, and if you can support yourself, that's great. But everyone, I guess, has this mindset of success of what it should be from what we taught from the media from since we was young. Success is cars, money,
Awards.
awards, getting
Yeah.
acknowledged all the time.
Now it's likes and followers.
Yeah, now his
I
likes and
know.
followers. So I agree with what you were
Uh,
saying about that, and I just wanted to share my story as well.
yeah.
Um, diving into the UCB thing, I know we're also Facebook friends, and I love the honesty that you share, and I will
Mhm.
reach out to you and give positive words from what you're feeling because I connect with those emotions that you're going through, and what you're going through is true. It's a conversation that should be had with an artist and trying to break through the barriers and stuff like that.
Yeah.
How did you facing the industry, facing like UCB classes and the things that you face there, what keeps you going to keep on following your path and what you want to do and not let these things like deter you and break you down? Yes, everyone will have those moments you feel discouraged, but you keep going. You know, how has that didn't affect you to the point you're like, I'm just gonna stop, I'm gonna quit, you know?
Uh, I just refuse to be that person who quits. Um, I feel like I don't know. I'm stubborn. I guess
Yeah.
I'm like nope, because that's what happened at BuzzFeed, right? I could have easily me and my group who started Pero like we could have easily given up, uh, and just been like, okay, back to making videos about Canadian PSAs, like just these like soul crushing videos that we were forced to do to prove that we can go viral. We could have gone back to that,
Yeah.
and survived. But I was like, nah. We were just all like, nope. And then look where Better Like is now, right?
Mhm.
They survived a massive layoff last year. They were one of the few groups standing. ¿Por qué?
Mhm.
Okay? Because Latinos are there and they're watching, and they, I guess, were making Pero Like was making some good money for the
Yeah.
company. And I find it hilarious because I thought, man, they were gonna pull the plug on us any day.
Mhm.
While we were just starting, I was like, they just want us to fail. And I just feel like that's the same. I mean, we're still in it.
Yeah.
You know, like I said, look what and that was a Latino, by the way, who said that my show was too Latino. I think my writing partner and I talk about this a lot. We just feel like Latinos tend to also be very ashamed of who we are.
Mhm.
We want to present ourselves in a squeaky clean, like, way that is appeasing to like white people.
Yeah.
And I think there's a lot of truth to that. And man, it's like I grew up mainly watching black sitcoms, because what did Latinos have?
Right.
Novelas.
Novela, like we did it, and then at some
Leones.
point George Lopez show, and obviously,
Yeah.
you know, again from the audience watching, when I say black, I mean non-Latino black.
Yeah.
I don't want to erase Afro Latinos. But we didn't have anything, right? And then I don't know if you guys saw this in New York, but we had Que Pasa USA, which was the PBS show about Cubans in Miami. So I was like, okay, and that's all I was holding on to. So I watched a ton of Martin, Fresh Prince, Good Times, all the oldies too. And what I loved about black television, especially in the 90s, was that they just were themselves. Like there wasn't any hiding anything, right? And even in, I think Fresh Prince is a great example of showcasing the spectrum, because you have like this really wealthy black family in Bel Air, very uppity, you know, you got Hillary Banks, but then you got Will, who's kind of the mediator between these two worlds, you know, and then he's got his boys, you know, and I sometimes feel like Latinos maybe are ashamed of like aspects of the culture that they are like embarrassed that white audience will see. I don't know.
Yeah.
You know, because a lot of my stuff comes from a place of low middle class. I mean, that's what I lived. So what am I, you know, I do have like, right? I mean, I have a character, Tia Gloria, who's like the Coral Gables Cuban who thinks she's better. But see, that type of person is the kind of person I make fun of.
Right.
That is like they're ashamed, you know, of being Latino, so they try everything they can to hide it. And again, it's all a spectrum. There's no right or wrong way to be black. There's no right or wrong way to be Latino. Again, people have always looked at me and been like, "You're not really, you know, look at you. You're just," and especially because I'm a geek. Like you can't be a geek and then be like ethnic. I don't know. It's bizarre. All these rules are so dumb to me. You have to dress a certain way, and that's the only, like, if you don't dress like J-Lo with big hoops, then you're not really Latina. I'm just like, okay. I'm just like, it's really, I think we're suffocating each other. And especially when I worked at BuzzFeed and Me Too, man, the way we hate on each other is so bad. Like even like a recipe video, right? My sister produced a series at Me Too called La Cocina, where it was a great premise, where it was like a voiceover. You never saw the people. You just saw hands. And for instance, like an episode where she calls my mom for a recipe on picadillo. And then you hear my mom's voice in the background. Like it's like a phone call.
Okay.
And bro, the comments, we don't put raisins in our picadillo. That's not a real Cuban. I'm like, okay, do I need to visit someone's grave and interview the inventor of picadillo? Because a lot of that shit's a mix of cultures too, like Spain and Africa. What are we gonna do? Dig up a bunch of dead people here? And like, not to be morbid, but coño. Sometimes I wanted to just write that. I'm like, what do you want? Just because your abuela made ceviche one way doesn't mean that someone else's ceviche is, you know, is wrong. And so we would tear each other up in the comments all the time. Like, I think my friend Laura once got a comment, one of her sketches. Laura's Venezuelan. She's in a lot of my videos. And it was like a breakup video, and then she's cleaning with like cleaning gloves. And one girl's like, she's not a real Latina because she's cleaning with cleaning gloves on.
We're just so quick to hate and send negativity to our own content.
It's just very gatekeepy. And the problem is too, is like, I get it. This is the psychology behind a lot of this. And again, I got this mainly when I worked at these bigger companies because the audience was more vast. If, like, for instance, me, right? I was the only Cuban on Pero Like. I only had my one experience as a Cuban, right? and I'm from Miami, right? So I'm not a Jersey Cuban, I'm not a New York Cuban, I'm not an LA Cuban or a Tampa Cuban. And there's never a point in any of my videos where I say this is what all Cubans are like.
Mm.
But people, I think, and that's the problem. There's so many white stories
Yep.
to choose from,
Where are the- yeah.
but when it comes to Latinos, it's still so like little
Yeah.
that when people see the one Peruvian or the one Ecuadorian representing them, if it's not exactly matching their experience, they get really upset.
Yeah.
They're like, Jenny's too white. That's not a real Cuban. Or Jenny's this. Or, you know. And I'm like, y'all, I am just existing. I am trying my
You're
best.
just being you.
I'm just being myself. And it's not fair to us. But I get it. I sympathize. I empathize with the audience. I know why they're doing it. I just wish they would empathize right back with the creators and realize, okay, she's just one person. That just means more of us need to get out there and share our stories.
Yeah.
So that way there's so many that we have all kinds, right? Like getting like a Cuban perspective from someone who was born in Cuba, getting an Afro-Cuban's perspective, getting Chinese Cubans' perspective. People forget that there's Asian Latinos. There's all kinds of Latinos.
All shapes and sizes. How has being creative, creating your own content, writing, acting, how has that what has that brought to you?
My career?
Yeah. Or you in general, you creating
me.
your like what has that brought you? What gift has it given you?
Ooh. It has been extremely rewarding. It's like living my childhood dream to be told, you know what? When you're in your 30s, you're gonna have a career based on playing different characters and dressing up. I would have been like, yay! What an exciting time! It does. I'm not gonna lie though. I mean, I'm lucky. I tried my best to push through my anxiety disorder and be grateful for everything. But it is tough when it is about numbers.
Yeah.
Because that's how I make a living, right? It's through brand deals mainly. And the only way brands care about your existence, first of all, second of all, depending that your following and your numbers will depend on how much they want to pay you.
Gotcha, yeah.
And as a woman, también, it's a little more difficult. I still struggle to reach the numbers that a lot of my fellow male Latino comedians on the internet have. Don't know what it is. I've struggled with it since I was a kid in competition. Like I would try to be up there with the boys. I would do gross things. I would try to not do like female comedy, whatever the hell that's supposed to mean, and talk about my period. I'd be like, you know, like just like total dude stuff to try to compete with the men. And at the end of the day, it was just always so much funnier for men to play women than women to play men. And so a lot of Latino male comedians do the whole towel on the head, playing the Latina mom, and it just gets more love than me playing a Latina mom. So it's been a struggle. So there's a lot of like creator burnout in digital. And I'm not saying TV is going to be any easier. That's obviously the goal I want to reach next. But it's brought me a lot. It's connected me with so many amazing people that I've met over the years, creating internet content. So that I'm like the most grateful for is just meeting the right people, amazing people to collaborate with in my videos. And también the opportunities that it has given me, like voice acting and stuff like that.
What was an important lesson that even to this day that you think about that your grandmother shared with you and taught you when you was young? Because it shows that she is still alive in spirit because you're honing a lot of the memories that that you remembered being around with her, and she's still around, and I believe in that. So, what was a lesson that still comes up every now and then that she taught you when you was younger? that maybe still helps you to this day?
I think it's mainly celebrating all the victories, even if they're small to you, because my abuela used to be so proud of me for any little thing I did. Like when I worked at Univision, I was just a quality control editor for telenovelas. That's all I did. And my grandma would tell everyone as if I was like on TV, she's like, ay, mi nieta está en Univision. And then there's a picture that, one of my favorite pictures. So when I was working at Univision, I had another job as the Nesquik bunny mascot. And that's when I was doing the other channel, the Aggressive Comics channel. So I was always exhausted. But I had to do an activation as the bunny at this small mercado near her house. It was one of those tiny Latino supermarkets, and I was in there in my bunny suit. and then my grandparents came to visit me, and it's a photo. They're like on either side of me, and they just looked so proud.
That's beautiful.
Yeah.
I was gonna say, I want to tell you that to keep on hold on to that memory, and hold on to that lesson, because it came to you quick, and I think that is a message for you that no matter how tough this industry gets and complicated, when you're dealing with trying to bring your content out, and you have these stupid people, it's like, oh, it's too Latino, or it doesn't cross over, yada yada yada. I think it's a reminder that you should always tell yourself that, like, no matter how little or far you go, to count each blessing that you made. And it's tough because
celebrate
it, because all that stuff comes from the world. Before when we became artists, and first of all, when we're born, we already have those gifts. The moment we start playing with those gifts, we start realizing, wow, this brings so much joy and fun. The world and other stuff starts bringing numbers to us, because when we start doing it in the beginning, we're not thinking of that shit. We're thinking, how can I get better? This is so much fun, blah, blah, blah. The world brings all these layers on top of this childlike and this on top of our gifts. And then it becomes a creative burnout. It becomes the pressure comes. It enhances a lot of other things, from depression, anxiety, and it shouldn't be about that. That's the world doing that. And I think that's I want to thank your grandmother too, because that's a beautiful reminder for me as well. Count those small blessings and make them, because for her, those opportunities wasn't there, and even for your parents, and even for my parents, because their idea of making it, because at that time, was coming to this country or whatever and have a 9-to-5 job, because that's
surviving.
That's all we knew to survive. So people like us, we're the rebels, and I was like, we can make another path. There's another path that we can do. Why? Because the opportunities are there. So I think we should always be reminded of, no matter how small it is, even if you wrote a monologue or a paragraph or whatever, celebrate it. Because a lot of people didn't have those opportunities. But most importantly, it should be about you. Yes, I completed that. And it's tough, because I know you make a living off of this. And, a lot of artists too. The world put all these fucking numbers and makes it difficult. And you're trying to
continue.
If I remember Marlon said, if you're chasing numbers, then you always will be chasing, because numbers is infinite. And I thought it's so true, but if you're chasing happiness and good mental health and stability in life, that's more important than all the fucking numbers, but I just wanted to share that with that was a beautiful message from your grandmother, and you should constantly remind yourself about that when you have those, down moments. It's like, what does that note means to Latino? Like, why are you making it so difficult for me to create something that is good and it has worked? I was going to ask you before we go to our segment, what keeps you going? Like, when you get those type of notes, what stops you from, like, all right, I'm not going to change my voice? Because I feel like a lot of people will eventually cave in, right? and then try to whitewash it or to whatever wash it with something else. And in the end, right, you probably get that deal, but I know deep down you're not you feel shitty about it. They're like, fuck, I caved in just for what? A payment and some, some likes and followers and some, a light that's shining on me. How does that, does not interfere with like using these notes now to like change everything? Or it's a balance. Like, okay, how can I tone the Latino here a little bit, but I'm still
to think about
being a Latino.
I just think they're wrong. So the thing is,
they're wrong, so you're like, okay,
I know what's gonna happen. I've been saying this. I can water it down so that it can be global. Guess what's gonna happen? They'll pick it up. It won't last past a season. It'll be canceled. It'll be canceled because no one's gonna watch it. Because it's not gonna be funny. It's not gonna be relatable to the audience it's intended for. I don't think black people are in a room going, are white people gonna get? No. Doubtful.
Yep.
Okay. I've never seen a black show, and I'm not black, so it's not like I'm like, yes, that's the experience. But you can tell they're sticking to their truths.
Right.
Definitely.
Right? This isn't some like them trying to be safe and whatever. They're doing whatever they want to do based on their experiences, and it's like, shove it. So I want that for Latinos. And I've seen it. I've seen so many shows fall into that trap. And then a bunch of friends, a lot of people in the industry start talking. They're like, did you relate to that? No. And you can tell it was made for an audience that's not Latino.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Also, then you end up finding out they didn't even have Latinos in the writer's room. I'm like, well, how are you going to have, a freaking show? Yeah. About Latinos and then it not have any Latinos in the writer's room.
Yeah.
It's absurd to me. So that's the thing. Why am I going to water it down? I'm basically setting myself up for failure. And I don't want that. If I have a show, I want it to succeed. And even if that means that it's going to take 5 more years to get it up, I just believe that things are changing and there are people. Like I've been talking to a lot of people, showrunners and stuff. I think that there is someone out there that's going to take a chance on me and on people like me.
We need more people on the inside making those decisions that there are like us and that can vouch, and pretty much it, because everybody else, there's a lot of white people in those offices, in those meetings, in those writers' rooms,
white men,
and they're calling the shots because they have that power, and we need more people of our colors inside.
I know
we have tons. We have tons of creative people. We always been the creative, put us on stage, and somehow we still get jerked with payment for doing that. We'll dance in front of you, but the inside that's calling the shots, they're not us.
Mm-hmm.
No, and that's to me the biggest problem. And it's also, if there are Latinos in there, they need to cut the shit.
Right.
And
true Latinos, not whitewashed Latinos.
Yeah, that's the other problem too. Yeah, we need people to, take a chance. And again, it's upsetting because in terms of my sketch show, I have the fan base, I have the numbers to prove that they work. I don't just have Latino fans.
Yeah.
Right? Sure. From an analytics standpoint, it's more Latinos than anything, but I have a ton of other, like just white people, black people, Asian people, Jewish people, all kinds of folks watch the videos and they don't speak Spanish or anything. And they relate. I related to Medea. Mm-hmm. I'm like, yep, that's very similar to Latina grandmas. You know what I mean? Like ethnic folks in general, we can all relate, like to Jewish grandmas, Italian grandmas, Indian grandmas. Like there's that similarity there because of the immigrant experience. and similar upbringings, and like the way our parents were strict and would get mad at certain things. It's just, and they need to like let go of that and realize it is global. But if you water it down, it's not doing any audience a service, not even the white people that they want it to be for.
Yep.
White people are just not going to find it funny, is all.
Exactly.
They're going to go, what is this weird, like, Latino shit? And then how are we going to educate audiences on who we are as people if we don't show all aspects of who we are?
Yep.
And again, that's what sucks, because my comedy is different. My point of view is different. It's my comedy is very Caribbean and all that, and that's my story, right? Some Latinos aren't going to relate to me. They might think I'm too loud. I don't know.
Yeah.
Or like vulgar or whatever. Like,
yeah.
That's just my take on the culture and what I experienced. That's why we need more Latinos writing and creating. And I know it's not easy, because it's also, the industry kind of sets it up to be difficult for people of color and minorities. I come out here and a lot of white folks have their parents paying for their rent.
Yep.
And their houses.
Yep.
And so they have the luxury to sit at a coffee shop all day writing.
Yep.
Which is great for them.
Yeah.
But then it makes it, and even in these improv schools, you know how expensive this is.
Definitely.
Yep. Most classes, whether it's acting, writing, whatever, it's $500 and up.
Mm-hmm.
Like $500 to $800 a class. So you make it so much more difficult. So then that's why a lot of these improv institutions are mostly white.
Yep.
That's the other problem. It's like,
Yep.
And I'm not saying all white people are rich. There's a spectrum. Every race,
Mm-hmm.
I know many wealthy Black people and Latinos, and, but I guess statistically, I would say, right?
Mm-hmm.
A lot of us did not come from privileged backgrounds like that. That our parents are just throwing money at us, and we can just sit around and dedicate everything we have to the craft. Mm-hmm. I do, however, feel that because I didn't have all these privileges growing up, and I still don't have that safety net, that it makes me hustle harder. Yep. A lot of times, I vent to my husband about that. And he's like, well, think about it. Do you think you'd be this much of a hard worker?
No, right. I answer for you. No, if I didn't grow up, if I didn't grow up in Brooklyn, East New York, in a tough neighborhood, I wouldn't be where I'm at right now, because it taught me so much about being street smart. Taught me about staying on a positive route. And I had people that dealt with negativity, but they also taught me too. They also were friends. So the challenges and the difficulties brought a lot of blessings and a lot of wisdom from that. And being a hustler, like knowing that my brother always taught me, you wasn't born for a silver spoon in your mouth. You got to work hard for everything that you earn. You don't just get it. You have to go after it. So that gave me this work ethic of like, that I'm going to go after it, and I'm going to keep on having fun. I'm going to keep on doing what I love, and making things realistic about myself. Then what at an early age, what is success? Success to me is not money. I'm sorry, because it doesn't fulfill me. It's like you said, you can have all those things. You can have, you want to go to UCB, you want to take level 1, 2, 3, 4, and 501. Here's the money. All right, you do it.
Then what are you going to do after that?
What are you going to do after it? There's still so many other things you have to do. There's a fulfillment of when you actually grind it out and you reach a place of like, wow, I dug this shit out. I put it on my fucking, hard hat and went through the fucking rain, the fire, whatever. And, there's so much of fulfillment there of going that route.
Oh, 100%.
Rather than everything.
Definitely. When it's given to you. Yeah.
Yeah. I had like internships like Bravo and, the networks and all. And I'm this kid from Brooklyn, and I'm just like, all these people are like, oh yeah, my family for this internship, they put me in a hotel for 3 months and all that stuff. And blah, blah, blah. I'm like, you take the train? And I'm like, yeah, I take the train. Where do you take the train from? I'm like, the 3 train, like all the way down. Like, and it was like, oh, do you get off at this stop? And it's like a white area. It's like, no, it's a very darker area, and it's way down more. As like, oh, you over there? I'm like, yeah, and like
over there. Oh my
Over
god.
there,
so it's like
the dark.
and like I was like, well, you know what? It's like when I went to Buffalo and I went to television film arts and I got into that major and I was learning about writing, directing. I was the only person of color there. And I was like probably the third one. I was the third one. I'm lying. But everyone around me was white people. They had cameras. They had all this stuff. They knew
They had
all
all
these
this
things.
stuff.
And I was like, I don't have none of that. But I know I have my humor. I knew I have all the stuff that I watched growing up from Martin, Fresh Prince, all that stuff. And I have life experiences that will make me more of an advantage than where you grew up in a nice house and you have everything. Because the stuff that I'm writing, it feels more real. And people will
Yeah.
will
You're
connect to it
around.
more.
There's just more culture. I don't
Right.
know. I'm not trying to be like I don't know.
And it's not being well. First of all, I don't care what anybody thinks. It's not. It's just the reality. This is my truth. This is my
Yes,
truth. How
yes,
I grew up.
yeah,
So
yeah.
I'm not saying it may be different for
And
other
it has
people.
more sazon.
Yeah, exactly. That's just my truth and my reality. You don't like
said
it,
it.
so you should have been there to change my reality around me. You should have gave me money and took me out of the hood and gave me your version, your story. But this is how I saw. Like watching Full House when I went to college, I thought every white person was rich. Well, Full House didn't tell me there was poor white people. So I'm watching Full House.
It wasn't until Roseanne.
Right.
Roseanne, definitely.
So I go to college, and I'm glad I was around, different cultures. And I was talking to this white girl, and she was like one of my first white friends ever that I ever made in college. And I was like, can I be honest with you? We're having this heart to heart. She's asking me about the hood. I'm asking her about her whiteness and all stuff. And I can't believe that she was poorer than me. I was like, I should have gave you my welfare check because we was poorer than me. I was like, I didn't know. I said, honestly, I'm not being ignorant. I thought all white people were rich because all the television that I saw, that's what they showed me. That's all they showed me. Now I go and I'm surrounded by different cultures. I'm like, oh, snap.
It's different.
It's different. And I had to open up my mind because that's all I knew. That was my only world. Similar to our parents. Their world was this much. Get a 9-to-5 job. That's a success. Our world now is bigger. Yes, I'll get the 9-to-5, but then I'll invest that in my dreams. And I also want to be an actor, comedian, writer, director, and our world expanding. Then we get into that world and like, oh shit, this is kind of like there's a lot of more. There's more to it. There's more. There's bills and all stuff. So I agree with you.
Yeah. No, it's true. Like most people I went to school with look like me. They're all, for the most part, Latino. It's funny because my best friends growing up was my friend Jessie, who's white, my friend Allison, who's black, and she's from the Bahamas. So it's interesting. It was weird. We had a very Disney Channel friendship. If it was like cast perfectly, like the white girl, we got the Latina,
watching
and the black
Disney
girl.
Channel.
Miami though wasn't very diverse. Yeah, you're watching Disney Channel. It was, it wasn't until I moved to LA though that I was surrounded by more diversity. Believe it or not, in a different way. We did it. Miami just didn't have a lot of Asian people. Black people, yes, and Latinos.
Right.
And white people, but yeah, no Asian people. And I just feel like there's just more folks out here from different backgrounds, from all over, because it's LA. Yeah. Everyone comes out here from everywhere. Yeah. So British people, Australian people, Irish people, they're all out here. So it's been really interesting. Miami's just more very Latino, like from all over South America. So, one of my best friends is Honduran. My other best friend is Nicaraguan. You don't really find that out here. So when I have to cast actors outside of my little circle, it's tough because I want to diversify. I have found some Dominicans. It's hard. It's hard. And obviously Dominicans who are actors.
Right.
Yeah.
Right? So it's been a challenge compared to like East Coast, where there's a lot of Afro-Latinos and stuff like that. Like out here, I'm like, where are they? Someone bring them to me.
You're holding platinos. Like, maybe I'll lure them in with the platinos.
Give me some
Yeah.
mango.
I like, there's a good amount of Puerto Ricans here now that I know that are Donnie, who acts in my videos, she's Puerto Rican. And Andrew Santiago. I don't know if you know Andrew.
Everybody face.
He used to live in New York.
Okay. Face.
He worked on Flama, and then he came out here. Really
The name
talented.
sounds familiar. I gotta
Yeah.
see it by his face.
Yeah.
Okay.
He's so funny and talented. So I've been able to find a lot of folks, because even in my little videos, I try to make sure to diversify the cast when I can, when it's not just me playing all the characters. I don't, like one of the videos I'm working on, but now we can't. Pandemic.
Yeah.
Once this is all over, I wanted to do it. The Golden Girls were Latina.
Oh, that's great.
But I can't do a video like that and it be all white Latinas.
Right.
You know what I mean? Because that to me is sending a message to the public that this is what we all look like. And that's not true. Yeah. So for stuff like that, I always make sure that it's diverse, and that was my mission even at BuzzFeed. It's why I brought in Gadiel, because we didn't have any Afro-Latino representation there. And since Pero Like was gaining so much traction, again, we didn't want to, Curly's light skin, Maya's light skin, I'm light skin. I was like, you guys, maybe not. We need to change this. Even if it's with cast, because obviously our resources were still super limited. We couldn't hire a bunch of people.
Right.
Be producers. And that was another thing that's tough that a lot of folks don't understand. Even with my own channel, people think I'm part of this big production company. I had one girl be like, you're a white Cuban. Like, I don't know why you don't hire more people on your production team.
When it's probably like 3 or 4 people. Like,
it's just me and my friend Kevin.
Yeah.
But
let me go to HR.
It was so, so I have to explain. I mean, I'm honored that or flattered that I think that you think that my stuff is produced within a big company.
Hey.
But it's not, and so, and most of the time I'm just playing as myself. Then I got my husband, who's Peruvian Puerto Rican, to add his sazon to the mix. But that's really all we've got right now, other than, especially during the pandemic. But yeah, like I work very hard to make that a point. And even in the stuff that I'm writing for TV, it's not, I don't want to make it about just white Cubans. Like one of my pilots is a Puerto Rican and Cuban family. It's mixed. We don't see that.
Yep.
Like it exists.
Yeah.
And it's funnier to me, like the jokes between Cubans and Puerto Ricans. It's like, come on, yeah. And especially like in Miami, being raised with a lot of Haitian culture too. So I always include like the Haitian community in a lot of my stuff. I have a lot of Haitian friends who are in the business. So I'm always like, the day that I get a show, I'm going to bring you in. I just feel like we don't see a lot of Haitians either on TV.
And I was gonna say, what's so great about you, from what you shared, it seems like, okay, I have my truth and I have my characters that I based on of what I lived through, but I know there's many different layers of Latino culture and that I'm not aware of, or I just don't know, and I can't write for that. So hence, if I can't write for that, let me surround myself around people that can write for that, so I can learn from it and then eventually write for it. But surround that team around you. And I think that's great.
Yeah, whoever's watching, if you're writing for TV or film, please hire writers that are of that identity. Whether it's LGBTQ plus, disabled people, don't write if based on these experiences you don't know anything about. No, it's gonna show.
Yeah,
I know, and it shows. Whether it's like a show about women and it's written mostly by men, tú sabes, the reason why certain shows succeed is, and then you look at the writers room, you're like, that's why. Like Jane the Virgin, apparently, it's one of the most successful Latino shows, has a predominantly female writers room. Latinas, that is why.
Even
Same thing with
Insecure, one
Transparent.
of my favorite shows on
Insecure,
HBO.
yeah.
Their writers' room is full
Which
of
one?
black. Insecure
Insecure.
on HBO.
Oh, yes.
Rami.
Yeah.
Rami on Hulu. That's another great show. Some of the people been Emmy nominated.
Mhm.
Their writers' room are different. People of color, Muslim. The representation is not just about Muslim people or this is a black show.
You
It's
can
just
relate.
it's the content.
Mhm.
You can relate to it. It's based on a human emotions that we all
Yes.
go through, whether you're white, black, Chinese, wherever. You could go anywhere. Just the language is different, but the substance that we're talking about,
It's all
we
the
all go
same.
through it. It's the same human experience.
I know, and that's what people need to understand about Latino content. Because again, I mainly watched black shows as a kid, and I was thinking now of the show A Different World. That was such a good show,
Yeah. Yeah.
and they crossed like
It crossed-
not cross promoted. What's the right term? They crossed over a lot,
Mhm.
like Fresh Prince with A Different World,
Yeah.
and then the
Yeah.
Cosby Show.
Cosby
Yeah.
to Different World because it
Mhm.
was the
Yep.
daughter
Yes.
from the Cosby.
I was like, this is brilliant. It's like the Avengers.
Yeah.
I'm like, damn it, it was so brilliant. And then I remember there was like a period where there was no black shows like that for a while, and then they just came back stronger than ever in the past like 10 years, I would say. But there was a period that I feel like kind of went away.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I was like,
I wasn't
whose
watching.
bright idea was this? It's not like these shows were failures, you know what I mean? Man, I don't know. I think
they need to stop comparing also the numbers to for wherever why these white numbers has been successful, because for many years that's all you've been promoting was telling these white stories. So stop comparing those numbers
to the numbers of
to the numbers that have been succeeding, because those are the only stories you've been telling for. God, give us the same type of years with the same support.
You're right.
Then we will be just as much, just as higher as the white content.
They're too quick. They're too quick to just cancel the show.
Right.
And it's like, can you maybe
give it?
Because the problem is too, because I know a lot of these Latino showrunners and I see their struggle. To the outside, they look like they make it look like it's easy. Like, look, we sold the show. But then I end up finding out that the network didn't give them as much funding. I'm like, why is that? And they're like, oh yeah, because we're a Latino show. So it's almost like they're so scared to put all the resources into anything Latino because they're afraid it's gonna. I'm like, dude, you're already setting it up for failure first. That's what happened at BuzzFeed.
It's like, let's just meet the quota, but okay.
Yeah, like let's give them a little. Ping.
We have diversity.
Okay, the fact that we were snubbed all over the place for the Emmys again.
Definitely.
The fact that there's no Latino network show because Beauty and the Baker got canceled. Or Baker and the Beauty. I'm forgetting now the order.
Beauty,
but I saw the show and I loved it.
And
I was like, damn. And then One Day at a Time has had its struggle. Brooklyn Nine-Nine, which is not considered a Latino show, but it's diverse as hell.
Yeah.
And they were getting, and I'm like, what is this crap? Like, why do I keep seeing Latino shows having to hold petitions and stuff to keep them on air? I'm like, this is really sad. Why is this happening? And I'm sorry, gonna accuse me, but there's some shows, some white shows
don't need to be out there.
That you're like,
that should have been canceled from the moment that they brought it up in the meeting.
Before they aired.
Here. And then they're not giving us a shot from the get-go. They think they're doing us a favor by green-lighting it.
Yeah.
But then they're cutting the funds. They're not promoting it. There was a lot of people, my fan base, that's mostly Cuban, they didn't even know about One Day at a Time.
I didn't know about it either.
Yeah, I didn't know either.
Like, what? And I'm like, they should have been promoting all over the East Coast more because that's where a lot of the Cubans are.
Yep.
And it's like, what are you guys doing? I don't know. I mean, I'm not in there. I'm sure there are people in there just like there were at BuzzFeed who are fighting the good fight and they really care and give a big damn. But at the end of the day, if the top tippity top is saying no, what are we gonna do? And even when it comes to acting and voice, like as a voice actor, when I audition for Latino stuff, a lot of times they're like, "Can you sound Mexican?"
That happened to me too in LA. An agent asked me that. Can you
And
when
also,
you
then they tell you to lose weight, but you
that was
wasn't,
here. They told me to lose
and you
10
wasn't even like.
pounds
I'm like, you wasn't even
because
like
yo,
you.
yo soy una mujerona.
Girl, please, I wish. No, who
I'm
the ill? That's
telling you.
disgusting. I'm so
I'm
sorry.
telling you.
Absolutely not. It's such antiquated crap,
It is.
especially for women. Like, why can't I understand if a character is meant to be Mexican? Then it's like I shouldn't be auditioning for it. More so because there's so many Mexican actresses, so it's like I feel uncomfortable. Or if I get sent out, I've gotten sent out a couple times for like black voiceover roles, and I'm like, Mira. First of all, I'm probably not gonna get cast in this. God forbid I get cast, and then the day comes that they announce the cast, and it's a photo of a black character, and then my white ass.
Why is she playing?
Like, please, like that's. I'm sorry, and I'm taking away the opportunity of a black actress. No,
and it's not to say because you're an actor, you can play any race, but there's certain things you're like really like. No.
Yeah. And again, it's harder for Latinos, and I get it. I think Latinos are kind of divided in that.
Yeah.
Obviously, we should support no matter what. Like how One Day at a Time, it's all Puerto Rican actors and the Colombian actress playing Cuban. Oh. I understand that does happen, and we need to support. But in terms of with voiceover stuff, if a character is just generically Latino with no Mexican backstory, then let me sound Caribbean. Exactly. That's just my debate.
Yeah. Because like, they always go for even
why?
Yeah. Yeah. Why do I have to sound Mexican? Yeah.
I would be thrilled if I was playing a video game and someone sounded Caribbean.
Why not? Why do they have to sound that generic? Or Spanish from Spain. Is either Spanish from Spain or Spanish from Mexico.
Spanish from Mexico or just neutral Spanish.
Exactly.
Like freaking Borgate commercial Spanish. And I'm like, no. I don't talk like that. We just need to bring more like to animation, to video games regarding like the culture and stuff like that.
Definitely. So we're gonna go on to the next segment.
Okay.
And it's called Let's Look Inside. And the first question is, what do you love about yourself?
You know what's funny about that? I was just 2 days ago I was filming with Kevin, and I was like, you know what? I don't love myself. I think that's whack. You know what it is? I don't like. I'm a bit of a cynic, right? And so all this like positivity, like I call it, they call it toxic positivity now. And it's like, love yourself and every inch of your body. And I'm just like, but like, why can't I be like? I'm very self-deprecating, but I like it. Like I genuinely do. Some people are probably like, no, Jenny, there's probably more to that. And it's like, no, I'm a come mierda, and it's okay. Obviously, there's things I like about myself, but I don't know if I love myself. And I don't know if that's actually a bad thing. Maybe I'm sending a horrible message to children.
No, I mean, actually, you're answering it. I mean, there's some things that, that you probably want to improve. You're right. Right now,
what do you like about yourself?
Yeah, right now you like yourself.
About myself. Sure.
Right now you like yourself. Maybe eventually you'll learn to love yourself. Loving is a process and a journey. You know what I'm saying? Just because we got to learn to love someone else, but we also got to learn how to love ourselves. There's a lot of things that we don't like about ourselves or love about ourselves. And that's the honesty about it, So you said, look, I don't think I love myself. So I'm going to change it for you. What do you like about yourself?
um, I like my work ethic a lot. Thank you, work ethic within me. It's gotten me this far. I like my no quitting, like my what is words? What are they? I like that I don't quit. I like that I persevere. I like that I bust my ass. I know a lot of this has to do with work, but I do love it.
Yeah.
And that's a part of my identity. I like that I also push others to pursue their career paths. So I wouldn't say that I'm a mentor, but I take notice in the fact that I do think about others a lot. And so I know how difficult this career is. So I love to push my friends and even strangers to be the best that they can be and just go after their goals and dreams, because I just would hate to see people reach the end of their lives and regretting.
Right.
Right. And obviously I try to be realistic. Not everyone's situation is the same. Mm-hmm. But especially in today's day, there's always time that you can make to write. There's always time you can make. It's just about, I always tell people it's about how badly you want it.
Right.
So yeah, like I push people to be the best that they can be, especially in this industry, creatively pushing people. And I'm a pretty big empath, so it has come out to bite me in the ass many times. So sometimes I wish I didn't care so much,
right.
But I do care a lot about people, even if I don't know them. Like I'm just a big empath, which is why this whole situation we're in has left me fucked up. I am fucked up. But I'm in therapy.
Right.
Okay.
But that's great.
Yeah.
I mean, everyone should. I feel like everyone should see a therapist or have someone to talk to. It shouldn't be this type of thing where you just always keep everything inside.
Oh yeah, it shouldn't.
Yeah, it should be a norm.
That what?
I would say it should be a norm. It should be a normal thing that you 100%. Have someone to talk to.
100%. I have no shame in talking about therapy. You know?
I was going to say the second question is, what does the American dream mean to you? Yeah, you don't have, it could be something short, simple. And I know it's probably like a lot of things that you want to say, but when it comes to you, come to mind, what does that mean to you?
What comes to mind is primarily my grandparents, all of our grandparents or parents who came to another country, but in this specific case, coming to America to start a better life. So for me, doing what I'm doing and like how you were talking about doing what you're doing is fulfilling what our ancestors wanted, what our grandparents and our parents wanted for us, was for us to have a fulfilling life and have the opportunities that they didn't have. That to me is the American dream.
Now, if the next question is, and it's the last one, if the average lifespan was 40 years old, how would you live your life differently?
I'm not gonna lie. I feel like I'm doing it.
Nice.
Right? Because if I was too scared to follow my dreams and I just said, no, I'm just gonna work and again, I'm not hating on 9 to 5s.
Yeah.
That's one thing I've learned over, like, never talk down someone else's job and career. Everyone has a different hustle. Everyone has different goals. Some people aren't career oriented and they just want to work, pay the bills so they can have fun vacations with the family. Eso,
Yeah.
But for me personally, because of my brain, the way it works and how I'm such a creative individual, I don't like sitting at a desk. I've done it. It was miserable for me. I couldn't do it.
Agreed.
So for those folks, I always, if you're a very creative person and you don't fit that 9 to 5 mold, I always say try the entrepreneurship route and see what happens. But yeah, I feel like I'm more or less doing that already. I'd probably travel more. That's the only other thing. I haven't traveled as much as I would like. So I would make it a point to travel more. Um, but other than that, I feel like I've taken the chances that I've needed to take, like moving out
Nice.
here, doing what I'm doing. Um, yeah.